I just can't wait. We're one day away from this massive Duke basketball game against Michigan. And as the ratings are now indicating, everybody's going to be watching. We expected it. The data backs it up.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is J.J. Jackson. So great to have you here with us today on Friday, February 20th, 2026. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. On today's show, our good pal Jeff Fedotin from Forbes back with us on the program today. Excited to talk about the intersection of the sports business world and Duke once again as the Blue Devils find themselves as the top team in all of college basketball, according to the recent Nielsen TV rating. So we'll break all that down and so much more here on the program today. Duke's got a massive game coming up against Michigan. So we dive into all of that and so much more throughout our conversation today on today's show. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Take a moment, if you will, like this video on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share the video with your friends, as I'm continually amazed by all the support that I receive here with Locked On Blue Devils. And it's all thanks to you guys, a part of this family within the world of Locked On Blue Devils. So without further ado, Jeff Fedotin back with us once again here on the show. Good to see you, Jeff. Hope all is well in your world. And man, I tell you what, we've got another massive game coming up this weekend between Duke and Michigan.
Absolutely. JJ, it's always fun chatting about Duke basketball with you. And yeah, how I was so pumped for this Duke-Michigan game. It feels so much like a Final Four preview to two of the best teams in college basketball. And then the fact that you also have Houston and Arizona kind of preceding it. It really, and Duke's is on a neutral court, where Duke is hoping to be playing in maybe the East Regional. I mean, this has such a Final Four feel.
Yeah, so many layers to a matchup like this. And you mentioned kind of a game earlier in the day is 2 versus 4. This is going to be 1 versus 3, an opportunity for Duke to get a win over the number 1 team in the country. And everybody's going to be watching a game like this. From Washington, D.C., ESPN's taking College Game Day to a neutral site event, which doesn't happen all that often. You know, Game Day loves the opportunities to be inside college venues and things that make them so amazing. But we're told, and we've known this for a while, but I love getting data that supports the theory that Duke is a team that everybody always wants to watch consistently, right?
Yeah, I think you're referring to the Nielsen data showing that Duke is the most watched men's college basketball team so far this year. I mean, that's not a surprise given the branding and just what we think and what we know about Duke, but that's still to actually see it from Nielsen is, great confirmation of that. And that's the facts right there. And I believe Michigan is actually, I'm going to checking it right now, JJ, the staff.
Number 7.
Exactly. So you're talking about 2 premier brands. Just adds even more intrigue, more excitement, and more eyeballs for the Saturday matchup here.
Yeah, we've got the graphic up on the screen now from Nielsen, the top 10 teams, most watched college basketball teams on the men's side. Duke number 1, number 2 Michigan State, North Carolina, Arkansas, Kentucky round out the top 5. Kansas comes in at number 6, number 7 Michigan, so set to be a big game with Duke taking on Michigan this weekend. Number 8 Purdue, number 9 Illinois, and number 10, Tennessee. Again, for our audio listeners, the top 10, running it through quickly: Duke, Michigan State, North Carolina, Arkansas, Kentucky, your top 5, and then 6 through 10, Kansas, Michigan, Purdue, Illinois, and Tennessee. What a rundown of the most watched teams according to the Nielsen TV ratings. This brand for Duke is so widespreading. So many people across the entire country want to take an opportunity to watch Duke. This goes all the way back to Coach K's years as the head coach for the Duke Blue Devils. But even in data just specific to this basketball season, you think about a Thanksgiving Thursday game that Duke had against Arkansas, right, where so many people were watching. Duke's standalone games at Michigan State, or the game that they had in the non-conference against Kansas, the game that they already had this season against North Carolina and Chapel Hill. So many games this year where Duke's had so much of the country watching.
Totally. We talked about on this podcast, we both the preview and then we broke it down afterwards. The Duke-Arkansas game on Thanksgiving, that was the highest rated game since I believe the early 90s when goes back to a Bob Knight versus Purdue game. I mean, that just did incredible ratings. Now, this game on Saturday won't do those kind of numbers and it won't come close. Don't get me wrong, there's going to be a lot of people watching, but those were some rare circumstances. Thanksgiving night is huge. Whatever it is about the holidays, people must be sick of hanging around with their family and want a distraction. So you had the fact that it was Thanksgiving night. You had, talk about a lead-in, you had Cowboys, Chiefs, maybe the two premier brands in the NFL. The Cowboys, usually the Cowboy Thanksgiving game is the highest rated NFL regular season game, and then you factor in the Chiefs and Travis Kelce and Mahomes, and it shattered records, and it went on right after that. But it's still going to do well. It is interesting, JJ. Like, I think a little bit of a comparison is Duke, North Carolina recently, because that was not that long ago. It was here Super Bowl weekend, and it was the same time slot as ESPN 5:30 Central, and that was the 11th highest rated program of that sports week, which, I mean, that's still really incredible. That was the highest college basketball rated game. To put in perspective, the next highest was 18th, which was Illinois at Michigan State. So still a great number, but the Winter Olympics has been doing really well.
Yeah.
And there's NBA games and stuff. That's incredible that Duke, North Carolina did that well. It was better ratings than the NBA games, which is amazing. And Michigan obviously is having such a great year in number one. That should help it a little bit more, but it's not going to do Arkansas Duke ratings, that's for sure. But it is going to be watched by a lot of people and going to be. I can't wait for this game.
Yeah, and then we'll also get another Duke North Carolina game at the end of the season before the ACC tournament starts, and you can see there that North Carolina was the third most watched team in the entire sport. But we've got Duke and Michigan coming up this weekend. As we said, a lot of eyeballs are going to be on this game. We got to dive a little deeper. What else stands out about this matchup for Duke basketball? We'll start to look at that and so much more when Locked On Blue Devils continues in a moment. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. That's right. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set. The flavors are ready. And I've got my number one pick for the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. Super excited to look at all of the top flavors. I absolutely love a little bit of Confetti Craze. It's not too overly sweet, but delicious blend of rich and buttery, freshly baked confetti cake, smooth vanilla frosting, and a sprinkle of sweetness in every sip. It's got notes of vanilla frosting and sugary sprinkles, smooth dessert-like taste profile, rich ingredient, indulgent sweetness from start to finish. So that would absolutely be my top pick in this awesome draft. 5 Hour Energy shots give you a boost with zero sugar. It's 5 Hour Energy that's got a lot of upcoming flavor innovations planned. Find your new favorite 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. 5 Hour Energy is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. The show today also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel's giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can you pick cash, but you can also send it to you to the finals. Visit 5hourfanduel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, we're back on the show here today. Jeff Fedotin from Forbes is with us talking about this Duke game against Michigan. And we got to get into the action here, Jeff. I just talked about our great friends over at FanDuel and a lot of people wanting to talk about how close a game like this is. Putting the numbers up here on the screen for our viewers, Duke is actually an underdog going into this game against the Wolverines. Duke, a 2.5-point underdog. So Michigan favored by basically a 3-point shot. When it comes down to it, the over-under for a game like this set at 148.5. So two really good scoring teams, but also two really good defensive teams in a matchup like this. Not many times this season has Duke been the underdog, but going up against the number one team in the country, according to the AP poll, that's what we're seeing here.
You talked about some of the similarities, both having great teams, great defensive teams. The other thing, JJ, two of the best front courts in the country. Duke played Florida early in the year, obviously North Carolina. I think they're in the mix. I mean, Michigan, they are just scary big. I think Mara, they obviously get when you have a 7'3" center he's not as good, but kind of some Zach Edey vibes, kind of the player since Edey's left, kind of most like him. And then
and he's massive. I mean, you just turn on the screen and you're immediately going to recognize Aday Mara because he is larger than life. 7'3" sometimes doesn't feel like it's doing it justice, Jeff, when you see him compared to some of the other big, and a lot of these teams are massive, but 7'3" is just different out there on the court.
He looks like he's of a different species almost. He's that kind of big. And then you add in Lindeborg, who, obviously with guys like Cam Boozer, this NBA draft is going to be just loaded with all freshmen. It's going to be a great draft. Lindeborg's probably going to be the only lottery pick who is not a freshman, and that shows how talented he is. And then Morez Johnson, really just uber athletic guy. I've liked his game. I went to the Jordan Brand Classic, and he covered Cooper Flagg a lot back then, and he more than held his own. So you factor in those three guys, what a matchup. And then Duke, has Cameron Boozer, who is the presumptive player of the year in their front court. It'd be interesting to see if Duke goes a lot of three bigs. Do we go a lot with Malik Brown, Big Pat, and Boozer to counteract that? Do we try and get one of those guys in foul trouble? It's going to be that's going to be really fun to watch these front courts go after it and see who comes out on top.
For sure. I mean, it's a lot of familiarity. Obviously, these guys at the top levels have played against one another on AAU circuits and EYBL events over the years, and some run-ins previously in college. Elliot Cadeau, like we said, had many matchups for Duke as the North Carolina Tar Heels point guard. Morez Johnson, who you said is a great wing for Michigan. Remember, he played for Illinois last season, who Duke played in this very game. Duke's kind of non-conference game baked into the ACC schedule, although Morez Johnson Jr. was injured at the time for Illinois, so he did not play.
I think this one's going to be a little bit closer, JJ.
I would think so. I would think so. I mean, Duke scored 110 points against Illinois. I'd be all for a massive scoring output from Duke. But this Michigan team, I think, is going to be absolutely loaded and give Duke a big, big test. I think that's backed up here clearly by the betting lines that Michigan is the favorite going into the game.
Absolutely. And, this is such a fun game just to see it, just enjoy the competition out there, because the great thing about this game, yes, if Duke wins, it's the number one team. Yes, it further solidifies itself as a number one seed and perhaps the number one overall seed, which right now would be Michigan. But as long as both teams play a close one, it's not going to hurt their overall outlook as far as the season. I'm actually, JJ, I live in Chicago. There's a lot of Michigan folks here. I'm having two of my Michigan friends over to watch it. It's going to be a civil game because whoever wins, this might just be one of the initial matchup. We might see the sequel here down the line, maybe in Indianapolis. So it's great to see. You want your team to compete against the best, but I think actually the stakes for this one aren't both teams are still in great shape to land a number one seed no matter what happens. So we can kind of just sit back and enjoy two of the best teams in the land.
Jeff, let's highlight some players to watch for this game. We've got a few on the screen here that we want to show some love to this season for Duke. And Isaiah Evans is someone that I want to recognize first with the run that he's been on as of late. The last few games, he's really turned a corner with that 3-point shot. The 2-point shot volume has increased, and he's really effective finisher around the rim, which has been really fun and exciting. I think Showtime Slim's got to step up here in prime time for a matchup like this against Michigan.
Right, and he likes his big time matchups when you're in the game to watch in DC. And he's also going to be interesting, JJ, to see what they do. Again, Michigan starts the three bigs. They don't play them all the time. But so what does Duke do? Do they play Evan? It's going to be a matchup either way. Does a guy like Johnson or Lenderberg have to chase around Evans? Does Evans have to go against them? So he's going to be a real wild card to see how they deploy him. You definitely, like you said, he's been playing so well of late. You definitely want him on the floor. But he's going to be a really interesting matchup. You look at the two rosters and you're like, who is Evans going to cover and who of Michigan can contain Evans? Because the way he's playing, he's really the wild card. When he's that record, I think Duke is undefeated when he hits 3 threes this year. I mean, he's really the wild card, especially the way the two rosters are constructed. It's going to be fun to see how he does.
Yeah, we've kind of had to move the goalposts just a little bit because our favorite thing was Isaiah Evans being or helping Duke be undefeated when he scores in double figures. Unfortunately, that streak snapped for the first time in that North Carolina loss. So just one time in his career when he scored 11 points in that game, Duke has lost. But you're right, now it's 3 threes. And I think that's more impactful given this team not having the greatest 3-point volume at times. Absolutely. For players beyond Isaiah Evans. So if he's able to make those shots and get the job done in that respect, that's huge. Cameron Boozer, he's the National Player of the Year. I mean, I think it furthers his case if he's able to put together a big-time performance against a team like Michigan, who's got the massive size and the really big front court.
Absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see, the knock on Boozer was like, oh, he can't finish over length. He's disproven that time and time and again, and he'll have a chance to do that further against a really long, big team. And I think Michigan, a lot of teams double Boozer. I think Michigan tries to play him one-on-one. I'm curious to see how that goes. And the passing between Big Pat and Cam, just the big-to-big passing, one of the real skills of Duke. Michigan is also really good with their big-to-big passing. So that's going to be a fun matchup going forward and see these bigs go one-on-one. You can't. I'm running out of things to say about Cam Boozer. The only thing I can say is just, I'm like, Cooper Flagg, we'll never see this again. And like Cam Boozer is basically the same, very a different player, but he's almost, you could argue, exceeding what Flagg has done just numbers wise on the college level, which is just blows your mind for another freshman like this.
Yeah, no, I love it that we've been able to have back-to-back impact freshmen like this and Cam Boozer to take over the sport the way that he has. Last guy I want to recognize, certainly when you think about Duke being the second tallest team in all of America, Michigan being in the top 4 in that category as well. You got to talk about the other post players and Patrick Ngongba II, who, had the injury sustained against North Carolina, missed a game for the Blue Devils, has been back in action. Foul trouble is something that you certainly have to watch in a game like this when you've got two massive front courts. Want to make sure Big Pat and Cam and Malik can stay out of foul trouble. But Pat's such an effective passer from the elbow, down on the block, able to score in the paint, and Duke does so much of their offense from the points in the paint respect. Need another big Patrick Ngongba the second game, Jeff.
Absolutely, and that's a great point. What you said again, the pass. He's such a fun big to watch. You mentioned his passing. He's got nice touch. And yeah, the last time we had another great front court, he did get in foul trouble. He got hurt in that North Carolina game. So really foul trouble on both sides. When you're talking about the line of being 2.5 points, that could really decide it either way. If the front courts of Michigan or Duke get in foul trouble, forcing the teams to change their lineup a little bit. So Big Pat has to stay in there for his defensive presence, his finishing, and like you said, his passing, which I think might be his most underrated skill.
No doubt about that. Well, we're excited to see this game unfold. A few more thoughts about Duke and Michigan from Washington, D.C. So we'll get into all of that and so much more here when Locked On Blue Devils continues in a moment.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. It was a heavyweight showdown between number 3 South Carolina and number 7 LSU, and the Gamecocks rose to the occasion. South Carolina secured a hard-fought 79-72 victory to stay atop the SEC standings, using a balanced offensive attack to outlast the Tigers. Tessa Johnson led the way with 21 points, while Raven Johnson added 19. Medina Okot dominated the paint with a double-double, finishing with 12 points and 17 rebounds, while Joyce Edwards chipped in 10 points to round out the scoring. With the statement win, the Gamecocks now turn their attention to a road matchup at number 23 Alabama on Thursday. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
All right, welcome back here on Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson and Jeff Fedotin talking about Duke's big game coming up against Michigan. Very excited. 6:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. College game day will be there, and many people believe this could be a Final Four preview type matchup for what Duke's got. And then also earlier in the day, you've got number 2 Houston taking on number 4 Arizona. So just crazy that the schedule worked out this way for 4 of these teams to be playing one another, Jeff.
So fun. And, we talked about the ratings, how that they're going to be huge. You talked about ESPN doing their game day, even though it's a neutral location, not at a school. And apparently tickets at Capital One Arena, it's the most expensive ticket ever at Capital One Arena, which I've heard just shows the magnitude of this game. So can't wait for it, JJ. I'm really pumped for this one.
Yeah, and a coaching matchup that I think many people are really excited about. That's the one angle we haven't really discussed yet. Jon Scheyer in his 4th season leading the Blue Devils has been amazing as a head coach, has already taken his team to the Final Four, which is incredibly impressive. And then you've got on the other side, Dusty May, who really emerged on the national scene as the FAU head coach. That's right. The Florida Atlantic University head coach took the Owls all the way to their first Final Four and really cemented themselves as one of those Cinderella runs that we're so in love with in college basketball. And now really proving himself as a head coach at Michigan within the Big Ten, and Dusty May becoming one of the household names in the basketball coaching world.
That says it all. You take Florida Atlantic to the Final Four. I mean,
well
amazing.
Done.
And May is now, this is his 2nd year. Right now, he's got the number 1 team. Last year, I think they made it to the Final 8. If not, it was the Sweet 16, and it had a really good run. So talk about a great 2-year run. Yeah, that's a great example, a great point about 2 coaches who have not been head coaches at their respective power programs for very long, but making a big imprint. But JJ, one matchup I still wanted to talk about. You mentioned Cadeau, the former, we know him well. I think the matchup of the game might come down to Dame Sarr has been so good at stopping, the main ball handler, whoever's initiating the offense with his length, his speed. I think that could decide the game. These bigs we've talked about a lot really scare me of Michigan, but they become a little bit less scary if Michigan can't get the ball to him. I think that could be the matchup of the game. And one more guard I just want to – I'm loving the way that Caden Boozer's come on of late, the way he's finishing around the goal. But, yeah, speaking of – you mentioned the coaching matchup. I had to go to the point guard on defense versus – point guard on offense for Michigan. What a big matchup that's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's clear that, Elliot Cadeau does so much out of the backcourt for the Wolverines there. You've also got Roddy Gale Jr., who we've talked about, Namari Burnett. The best player for Michigan this season has been Yaxel Lindeborg. And how do you use Yaxel is kind of the big question there for Michigan. Dame Sarr is a really massive player for Duke to put out there. In the backcourt and, taking away the best guards. He was so good against Ibuka Okori there for Stanford, and has certainly had some big moments in the North Carolina game defensively, on and on. You look at Yaxel Lindeborg at 6'9", 240. Dame Sar for the first time would be a little bit undermatched when you look at it, but I think there will certainly be sequences where he's asked to kind of slow down Yaxel Lindeborg a good bit, because Ngongba and Cam Boozer are going to be, taken up by Aday Mara there on the interior and so much. I think it'll be a whole lot of Cam Boozer and Yaxel Lindeborg, but I'm really excited defensively what that looks like when Duke can switch it up and have Dame Sar get active a good bit. And I think Malik Brown factors into the Yaxel Lindeborg equation defensively as well.
And that's a great point. We talked about how Isaiah Evans is so important to the team, but he's a little bit of the interesting wild card matchup-wise. What do they do with him? You can't have him go against Landeborg. So you're right that maybe Sar takes Landeborg a little bit more rather than Cadeau, and they use Evans on a smaller player. It's going to be fascinating to watch. You mentioned the two great head coaches going at it. The chess game, it's going to be fun to watch, man.
Without a doubt. All right, and then also tomorrow we get the NCAA is going to release the top 16 seeds. It's kind of something that they've been doing the last few years, right, where they will unveil, seriously, the top 16 teams in the country as it stands today. You get a clear picture of what it kind of projects and looks like. Earlier in the week, they let media members kind of take their part in a mock unveiling of this, and Duke was released as the number 2 team in the entire land, so one of the 1 seeds. This will obviously be done before the result of Saturday's contest between Duke and Michigan, but it's going to be another indicator that at this point in the season, Jeff, Duke will be unveiled as a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament picture.
Exactly, and also further proof of what I said earlier in the show, that fans can really just enjoy this game. Yeah, I'm going to be nervous when it gets close like everyone else, but Duke is in great shape, win or lose, and we all think with the way they're going to unveil the seedings, this game is in Washington. Could be a good preview. That's where the regional in the East is. Duke likely the number 1 seed in that regional at this point of the year.
Yeah, and the way that it's just insane the way the schedule has kind of shaped up so far this season, Jeff. You look at the run of Saturday games that Duke has been on. We've got this one tomorrow against Michigan. Next Saturday, Duke's got a really big game at home against Virginia. Right now, Virginia just 3 losses on the season compared to Duke's 2. Virginia second place in the ACC. The following Saturday, you've got Duke and North Carolina from inside Cameron Indoor Stadium, the final game of the regular season. The Saturday after that, you've got the ACC Tournament Championship that we're hopeful Duke is participating in. And then one Saturday further, you're into the round of 64, and the round of 32, you're playing postseason basketball. So all of a sudden, weekend basketball, pivotal. It's our favorite time of the year when you look at the college basketball season kind of winding down. It's flown by.
Absolutely. But like you said, even as fun as this all has been, the best is even on the horizon.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, Jeff, it's been great previewing this game. Duke against Michigan, also taking a look at the updated Nielsen ratings. Duke, the top team in the entire country. I know that you've got a lot of great work covering a variety of different things in the sports world. You're on X at J Fedotin. How else can people support you? What do you want to plug and promote here, Jeff?
Yeah, JJ, thanks for giving me that platform. I encourage all of the listeners to check out my work on Forbes.com. You can just even Google my name, Jeff Fedotin, Fedotin. I do a lot of NFL stuff, was covering the Super Bowl, where I actually ran into Quinn Cook. I sent you that picture. He was there.
That's awesome, yeah.
At Levi Stadium. I was so excited to see him. But I also do some just general branding stuff. I'm looking into some stories about the Boozers and the Jordan brand. We'll have some Finals 4 stuff as well coming later in the season. So definitely check out my work there.
Great to see you, Jeff. We'll do this again soon, okay?
Hey, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, JJ, to be on your show.
All right, that's Jeff Fedotin joining us here on today's episode of Locked on Blue Devils. Really fun to pick his brain about a big matchup like this. Guys, it's massive. It's Duke and Michigan tomorrow, the number 1 team in the country. Duke's got an opportunity to go and take down, as Quinn Cook famously said in the viral clip from Duke basketball, Duke is never the underdog. Let's see if they can prove that to be the case tomorrow when the Blue Devils take on the Michigan Wolverines. That's going to do it for our show today. That's going to do it for another week of Locked On Blue Devils. Thank you so much for your support, guys. As always, be sure to follow us and subscribe for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Check out our Everydayer Club. You can join and be able to get more access to all things Locked On Blue Devils, including an ad-free version of our show and an invite to our Discord server as well. That'll do it for our show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you on Monday. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.